Are we ready to record? Okay. All right, we are now reconvening into open session. The time is now 5:32, and the executive session has been concluded. The participants in the executive session were myself, council members Eric Gottelf, Gusty Kanakas, Tom Priest, Brian Rodine, Len Feiger, and Kate Schiavone, along with town manager Michelle Mateer and town attorney Mike Sawyer. For the record, if any person who participated in the executive session believes that any substantial discussion of any matters not included in the motion to go into executive session occurred during executive session, or that any improper action occurred during the executive session in violation of open meetings law, I would ask that you state your concerns for the record. Hearing none, we'll go ahead and get back to the agenda. Could we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In Jesus' name.
Okay, next item on the agenda is approval of the consent agenda. Do we have any interest in pulling anything?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Eric, second by, I believe it was Lynn. Kate, sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next, we have approval of the regular agenda. Do we have any amendments?
No, sir.
I'll make a motion to approve the regular agenda as presented.
Second. Motion by Gusty, second by Tom. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Does any member of the council have any conflict of interest on any item on the agenda? Hearing none, we move on. Next is the public comment. If there's anyone that wants to address the council on any issue that you have, with the exception of what's on the agenda, you can come up to the mic and address the board. Okay. Anybody out there, Jay?
No, sir, there is not.
Okay,
I have a public comment, Mr. Mayor.
go ahead, please.
So I received a phone call earlier today from a resident who could not make it this evening as they work at nights. They asked if I could please convey to the council. His name is Patrick Drennan, and he is a resident of Taylor Street. He has indicated that construction for homes on Taylor Street, as well as the Minturn North project, but not solely due to the Minturn North project. The construction work has been starting right at around 7 a.m., which is identified as part of our code with the noise and decibel limitations. He has requested that this is too early for folks that work in the evenings and sleep at night, and that it is affecting his quality of life. He indicated that he will be getting a petition to make a change to this code, at which point he will come to the council directly. But I told him I would communicate this initial message to you all as well.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Okay. So now it's time for council comments or committee reports.
I don't have any.
None.
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 This is the last council meeting before Christmas and New Year, so hope everybody has a happy holiday, happy Hanukkah, all that good stuff.
Happy New Year, everyone, when it happens. And we won't slow it down. We got people here wanting to discuss other things, so let's move on to the next manager's report.
Yes, thank you. I can keep this brief. As you all have in front of you, and just want to let folks know, we have a new Minturn Red Cliff visitor guide that's available for everybody. We have hard copies at Town Hall. We'll be giving them out to our businesses as well. We had copies that were also picked up today to go to the Eagle County Airport, as well as other brochure racks throughout Eagle County. And there is also the www.visitminturnredcliff.com website on how residents and tourists can recreate responsibly and environmentally friendly in our area. Lastly is that we had our most recent First Friday event that was held at the Wee Dram as part of the First Friday for in addition to the town tree lighting. We have received extensive positive comments both about First Fridays in general and about the combining of the First Friday event with the town tree lighting. Cindy Creek provided a memo in your packet that we'll be looking to combine those events moving forward for tree lighting and First Friday in December, and hope that that will be a success for years to come. Thank you.
Alrighty.
A quick note for people who might not have read the manager's report. There's an important item in there about the Highlands parcel, which was part of the Battle Mountain settlement. And it's an update from Michelle about the public process that we're going to be kicking off in January. That's really, really important. As you may know, those parcels are what we received in the settlement from Battle Mountain in lieu of cash. Those parcels, the Highlands parcel included, could have a big impact on our finances and opportunities for funding various things that we might be discussing later. So it sounds like January 6th, there's a note going to go out, and preliminary, there's a 29th.
Scott, can you give the timeline? Because we're working on it as we speak.
Thank you. Scott Hun with the Planning Department. You are correct, January is our kickoff for that. Starting on January 29th and working backwards, we're going to have an open house right here on the 29th of January from 4:30 to 7:30. Before that, we're shooting for January 6th to launch a survey on the town's website. So we'll have information on the town's website, a web page about the Highlands and the history, a link to the survey so we can get people up to speed hopefully before that open house.
In addition to the website, we will also have hard copy flyers for folks who don't have online access that will have the same information as the webpage. So hopefully we can keep everybody involved and on top of what's happening in advance of that open house. Thanks.
And this is all happening because we need to hear from you about this land that we have gotten through the Battle Mountain Settlement Agreement. We want to understand what you would like to see there, understand the fiscal things that go on with that and everything else. So that's really important. Spread the word if you can.
Thank you.
Okay, no special presentations. So we're on to business items. First item is ordinance 24, series 2024, second reading. An ordinance increasing the short-term rental lodge tax to 6.5%.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is second reading of the short-term rental tax, which was a ballot question on the November 5th elections. This question passed with overwhelming support for adding a 5% lodging tax to short-term rentals only, not hotels and motels. So with that, I open it up to any questions that the council might have that you didn't perhaps have at the first reading, as well as if the public wants to have public hearing.
There's no changes from.
There are no changes from the first reading.
Okay. Any questions for Michelle?
No.
Okay. And with that, I'll open this up to public hearing. Any questions from the public on this issue? If so, just state your name and address. Okay. Jay, we got anybody else in Zoom land?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay, we'll close the public hearing. And
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 24, series 2024, an ordinance of the town of Minturn amending section 4-4-40 of the Minturn Municipal Code to provide for the implementation of the proposed taxing measure referred to the town's electors.
I'll second the motion.
motion by Kate, second by Lynn. Roll call, please.
Gusty, aye.
Kate, aye.
Then I.
Eric, aye.
And Earl, aye. So ordinance 24 has passed. Next item on the agenda, ordinance 25, series 2024, second reading, an ordinance establishing the Minturn Downtown Development Authority.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is also second reading of the ordinance approving the Downtown Development Authority and associated map. We do have Mike Sawyer here with us this evening. Mike did take the time to make the amendment as requested at first reading. If anyone wants to ask Mike any questions about that amendment, which I believe was for the purpose of making board seats more accessible to those in the downtown development map area, he's available. Otherwise, no other changes besides that single request were made.
Mike, let's go ahead and discuss the change, if you would, please, real quickly. I mean, you're here.
Yes, I believe that we took out a limitation that a certain number of seats had to be filled by property owners as opposed to business owners. This was a point of discussion at the last meeting, wanting to promote the number of business owners who could be on the DDA board.
Thank you. If anybody's wondering why he looks so sleepy, he's zooming in from Prague. Okay, so any questions for Mike?
No, but I know how he feels.
Okay, if there anybody else, I'll open it up for public hearing. Any questions on the DDA? Anybody out there, Jay?
No, sir.
Close the public hearing. All right, with that, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 25, series 2024, an ordinance of the town of Minturn, Colorado, creating and establishing the Minturn Downtown Development Authority in the town of Minturn, Colorado, and determining organizational aspects of the Minturn Downtown Development Authority Board and providing other details related thereto.
I'll second that.
Motion by Eric, second by Gusty. Roll call, please.
Gusty, aye.
Then I.
Brian, aye.
Eric, aye.
And Earl, aye. Okay, that takes care of ordinance number 25. Next is resolution 65, series 2024, a resolution to approve a professional services agreement for the window replacement at Town Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So several years ago, we underwent a capital improvement reserve study for Town Hall. As part of that reserve study, they identified the needs of Town Hall for making infrastructure improvements for the longevity and the life of the building. I think everyone here can acknowledge the need for new windows, so I'll keep it short. We went through the town's procurement process, getting a minimum of 3 bids. Those came in, we reviewed all 3 and selected the contract you have in front of you today. I then took it a step further and texted some of our local contractors to see their experience with the firm. And with that in mind, I received rather positive feedback about renewal by Anderson for being a local to Colorado firm. So with that, I request approval as with the confirmation of this contract in 2024, we lock in a 6% savings that will go up in 2025. The windows will be replaced in the 2025 fiscal year.
This is every window in the building?
This is Town Hall and the apartments, but not the police substation and not the post office, as theirs are not used as frequently.
Thank you, Michelle. Any questions from the board?
Where were they in terms of, I've had estimates done on windows in my house and
Yeah.
renewal was twice as expensive, I think, as the other ones when I
They
did that on
came
my
in
own.
the middle.
The middle.
They were they weren't the low, but they weren't the high. They were in the middle.
Interesting. Cool.
Say,
We also, and I'm sorry, Eric, we also tried to find grant opportunities for this that were a little harder than I expected. I was hopeful there might be something out there with all of the heat savings that we might see. Most of them came in the form of tax credits, which for us were not a value.
I would say, yeah, anecdotally, we used renewal for our house and the insulation has been improved.
Oh,
Like
great.
it's- Yeah, we've noticed a dramatic improvement, so they did a good job.
Anybody out there want to ask anything about our new windows coming in? If we pass this resolution, of course. Nobody wants to. Okay, anything else from the board? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 65, series 2024, a resolution approving and authorizing the mayor to sign an agreement between Renew by Anderson and the town of Minturn for purchase and install of a replacement windows at Town Hall.
Kate seconds.
Motion by Gusty, seconded by Kate. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next, as I'm sure you've all heard, Michelle will be leaving us.
Correct.
She has made as she always did on everything she did with us, she made a good decision. It was good for her career and good for her family. And we congratulate her for a job, not only for your new job, but for a job well done the entire time she was here. She has been 15 years for the town staff and 6 years as town manager, if I were doing my math right. Best town manager I think we ever had. And so, the reason I'm bringing this up now, because we are looking at our recruitment process. And so I'll hand this off to Michelle to take it from there.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much. So as part of the resignation, the council is considering a formal recruitment process for the filling of the new position. That recruitment process, at times, if so desired by the council, can include formal executive recruitment firms or people to facilitate that effort. Recruitment processes typically include extensive background searches, multiple panel interviews, community meet and greets so that the community can meet any potential applicant finalists before the council makes a final determination, and it usually is between a 4 to 6 month endeavor. So with that, we've discussed two different opportunities for recruitment firms that may be of interest to the council. The council has the opportunity tonight to either grant Mike and I the ability to spend up to a certain dollar amount to secure an executive search firm, or if the council would like to make specific direction on the firm that you all would like to go with, you can do that as well. Additionally, staff will be working to secure an interim town manager in that time, as we have many projects in town that need to continue moving forward as they are slated to be shovel ready and start construction in the spring to summer of 2025. That includes the Phase 2 Main Street sidewalks, the installation of sidewalks along Railroad Avenue for traffic and pedestrian calming measures, the repaving of Taylor Street, Nelson and Norman Avenue repavings as well as any work that may or may not need to occur pertaining to a new water treatment plant pending discussion tonight. So with that, I turn it to Mike in case I left anything out regarding the direction we seek.
No, I think you've covered it. We need to get this process in motion, and I guess there is an option that you could authorize, which is to not hire a recruiter, and the council could take on trying to recruit, but that seems like a very cumbersome process. I went through a manager recruitment in the town of Silt recently. And it takes time. Like you're paying someone not just for kind of a network that they have, although maybe that is part of it, but really you're paying someone to manage going out, actively trying to get a number of people interested in the job, and then to sift through the resumes and make sense of the candidates, and then to manage a process which happens at the town level, where there will be meetings both with council and with the public to get input on the finalists. So it's turns out to be money well spent in order to work on getting a slate of candidates that really is the right fit for Minturn.
Okay, so let's open this up for discussion with council on, do we want to move forward with a choice this evening of a recruitment firm? And if so, then we can do so and get a jump start in the process.
In a word, yes. Not much to discuss.
Do we have the audio? Okay, so I guess we need to, we have two choices at this time, and we're happy with both. So let's start off with KRW, and people that would want to see KRW as our recruitment firm. Wave Thumbs up, thumbs up. Okay. Okay. There's your direction.
Thank you.
Oh, was that a majority?
It was.
Oh, yeah. Thank everybody. Okay, so thank you for the quick decision. Okay, now we're here for why you're here. We're now beginning the discussion item, water treatment plant direction. I'm gonna hand this off to Michelle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With that, is it acceptable to you if Mike signs off? Mike, are you okay with signing off? Do you need to stay on? I can, either way, just want to check with you.
I appreciate that. I'm gonna stay on for some of
Okay.
the water discussion and we'll sign off when it seems like my participation is not helpful.
Okay, hopefully all of our legal questions will come up early in the discussion. Okay, so thank you very much. So with that, I'm gonna get straight to it. Jay, if you could please bring up the very brief presentation I've put together. So I did put together an incredibly brief presentation for folks because although this has been an ongoing conversation with the community for many years now, at least since 2018, I wanted to make sure we're still all on the same page with kind of where we've been and how we're moving forward as a community. So we're talking tonight about the Minturn water treatment system, about the funding opportunities that are available. 90 days ago, approximately, council sent me back to the drawing board to find any final remaining funding opportunities that might be available to help defer costs associated with a new water treatment facility. Next slide. So in the council packet, I went and I took a look at everything that we have been doing since 2018 to talk about this, the studies that we've conducted, the analyses that have been undertaken, cost estimates associated, modeling that we've done, not only with water treatment, but with wells and well fields. And those costs, I'd say, and I have to give a ballpark figure, we've probably spent around 400,000, maybe a little bit more, on that data to date. So in the council packet, for any of you that might be interested, there's this page that has approximately 35 links of all of that information of the work we've done since 2018, including the water newsletters that went out to try to help just inform folks of what we're doing and why. Next slide. Okay, so additionally, it's really hard to see on the TV because the TV's tiny. We have this decision timeline that I put together. So since 2018, we have had the initial conversation with the community, and some of you, actually I remember being there, was about what we called the interconnect. And that was a discussion, thank you, Jay. That was a discussion regarding, is there a value to the community with connecting to Eagle River Water and Sanitation's water distribution and treatment system? From that community-wide discussion at a council meeting, the community really identified that they wanted to see Minturn stay an independent water system. Fast forward, we had a capital improvements plan for the water system specifically that outlined all of the improvements that needed to be made to the water distribution and treatment system. Our public works team has been working around the clock to facilitate this improvement plan, which has included everything from installing leak detection systems. All of you now should have new water meters associated with your meters at your homes that are doing a better job of reading water use. We've replaced the tank number 2. We now have a concrete tank. So a lot of things have been done on that front. One of the things that remains on that capital improvement plan was the direction for a new water treatment facility, which is what we continue to discuss. Honestly, I'm so sorry that I just can't read the rest, Jay, because the TV is so small. Or maybe I'm just so old. Oh, thank you so much. We put out an RFQ for a water treatment plant design and engineering. That's how we came about to have HDR firm with us. From there, can you go to the next row, Jay? Thank you. From there, we had discussions with the council, further discussions about water treatment, where we reviewed the wells and the viability of the well field. We then came back. We were told the well fields are not the best option for Minturn. We went and got 30% design drawings and costs associated for a new water treatment plant, and those design drawings and costs associated were estimated by a water treatment plant construction firm, so that we really had a viable understanding of what this might cost. And at that point, council said, go back to the books and see any other funds that you can try to find to help facilitate bringing down the cost of this infrastructure to the community. So next slide. Okay, as you will all remember, under the water treatment plant alternatives analysis, because the council took a look at the water treatment plant cost, and it's a large number. So the council said, what other options do we have? And they, Jared Limke with HDR got together and put together what was called the water treatment plant alternatives analysis. And they researched a water treatment plant, a membrane water treatment plant, a package water treatment plant, slow sand filters, the rehabilitation of slow sand filters, and a well field. From that analysis, we got those options. The wells were determined not to be a viable long-term consideration, so those were taken off, and now we're left with 3 decisions. One is a water treatment plant membrane with what is called pretreatment. Pretreatment is exactly what you would think. It's a membrane plant, but it allows you to treat water that has additional turbidity and okay, Jared Limke's on the call as well, so he can correct what I say. But essentially, it has heavier metals in it. It's treating water coming from the Eagle River. So decision 1 is if the community wants to go and the council want to go with a membrane water treatment plant that allows for pre-treatment, and this would result in the ability to use a secondary water source, which would then allow for us to have system redundancy in the event of emergencies, wildfires, floods, mudslides, etc. It allows for future growth if so determined by zoning. And there's the potential for additional funding resources through growth to help offset the cost. Next slide.
It's on the next slide, Michelle.
Thank you. So then decision 2 is the membrane water treatment plant with no pre-treatment. So this is exactly as before, but it does not allow for the pre-treatment option. So it would not be able to treat water off of the Eagle River. You know, the town right now is busy getting ready to go to water court for a 4 CFS water right at the confluence of the Eagle River and Cross Creek. That was you. This would not be able to treat that water. No pretreatment means that there would be limited to no growth available through this option. It would only serve what we have today, plus what is being built within the confines of the current moratorium. And there's limited future redundancy, as we would not have a secondary water source. There would also be limited potential for future funding resources through growth, but there would still be that option. It would just cost more money. Next slide. Thank you. And the third decision is for slow sand filtration. So right now, Minturn has a slow sand filtration system. We originally had 3 slow sand filters. 2 of those filters have been decommissioned due to requirements from the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, indicating that they do not meet regulations. So we're now down to 1 slow sand filter out of the 3, and we utilize 2 wells. The results stemming from the continued use and rehabilitation of slow sand filters means we are susceptible to long-term regulatory issues if regulations continue to tighten through CDPHE. which means they would have a limited lifespan. Some folks have asked about what essentially is called the 1974 Clean Water Act. And the Clean Water Act means if you have a system that, Jared can correct me if I'm wrong, that I believe serves more than 25 people, you are required, or even Bill could correct me if I'm wrong, you are required to follow certain mandatory regulations to ensure that you are providing safe, quality drinking water to the public. So that means we are required to follow the regulations that CDPHE puts out there. The slow sand filtration option also has a limited volumetric capacity and would not be able to serve any growth. And there's a cost concern as to if good money would be put after bad, given the limitations of the lifespan of this option, knowing additional regulations will eventually come down the line. Next slide. So I was sent off to go and try to find any cost-saving opportunities that we could. So we have in the pipe right now $3 million through congressionally directed spending that was awarded to us by Congress through support of Senators Hickenlooper and Bennett and Congressman Neguse. We have started the process of obtaining those funds. We're working with the EPA now to obtain the first $450,000 of that $3 million for retroactive costs associated with design and engineering to date. That will help offset any principal loan that we have to take out. The rest will come through the approval process that will be ongoing with the EPA. So we have applied, so since council sent me back to the drawing board, we have applied for a $3 million grant through the Bureau of Reclamation for water treatment plant infrastructure costs. We look to find out if we are successful in that grant application in March of 2025. We, as Brian Rodine discussed earlier, are looking at the potential sale of what are known as the Highlands parcels. So the council settled with Battle Mountain Development in September. As part of that settlement, 9 parcels, Mike, I think it's 9 parcels were either conveyed or to be at a future point in time, either conveyed or through easement acquisition to the town in lieu of funds. 2 of the parcels that were immediately conveyed to the town and the town now owns are called the Highlands parcels. Those make up approximately 55 acres. I'm going off my memory. Those make up approximately 55 acres and are immediately to the west of what's known as the old tailings pile. So if any of you have been out Tigawon Road, you might know where the old tailings pile is located. It's that concave area of earth that's pretty flat and it's right next to Tigawon Road. To the west of that, and before you get to the Cross Creek Trail, is what's known as the Highlands parcel. And Scott is putting the webpage together now to talk about those parcels with photos, history, and opportunities to have a conversation about what the community wants to see done. One of the options within those parcels is for a potential sale of those parcels because we're in a very unique situation whereby the original 2008 annexation agreement identified multiple improvements that were to be made to the enterprise fund and the water system specifically. Because of that, we are able to take money that is obtained through the sale of the Highlands and put it into the enterprise fund to offset the costs of a new water treatment plant. So, sorry that took a while to get that out. We also have the option, cost savings options for future development contributing toward the system. So right now we're under a water moratorium and development is very limited. With the potential of a new water treatment system, if a decision is made to go in any one particular direction, that has the ability to potentially serve new development if depending on what direction is given. And those development costs, as far as tap fees, system improvement fees, would go toward offsetting the cost of a water treatment plant, similar to Minturn North and Belden and others. The last thing I'll say is since 2018, we have continued to see rising inflation costs. So the one thing is for sure is that the costs that were estimated at today will not stay the same. I feel confident in saying the costs will continue to rise year over year. Okay, next slide, please, Jen. Can you blow that up a little? It looks tiny from here. Thank you. Can you make it, I'm sorry. It got too big. Okay, thank you. So the course of action, water rates over time. So this is when the council sent me back to try to find out how to bring water rates down in any way that we can. This is kind of what came through in my mind was this graph of, okay, we're at our current rate right now, which is the dot furthest on the left of the chart. We're at our current rate. Remaining grant opportunities, which is the Bureau of Reclamation grant, will potentially come in March. And what will happen at that point is that it'll bring the water treatment plant loan down some because we would not have to take out as much principal for the loan. That's really important because once we take out a loan that's over $3 million from the state revolving fund, you cannot pay it off early. So you're paying interest on that principal regardless. So you of course want to take out as low of a principal amount as possible. You take out the loan, a loan application would be submitted in January of 2026. Minturn is not classified as a disadvantaged community. So we therefore can only apply for state revolving fund loans twice during the year, January or February. So we would have to apply for a loan in January/February of 2026. It would take about a year to finish up the remaining design and engineering work that needs to get done from the 30% we're at right now to get us to 90%. It'll also take us about a year to get through the NEPA process with the EPA, National Environmental Protection Act. We have to go through the NEPA process to get our congressionally directed spending funds, and we also have to go through the NEPA process to be approved for the state revolving loan fund. Both of those things are underway right now so that we would be on time for a 2026 application should certain directions be given, but if not, they will be put on pause. At that point, we get to our highest point in the curve and we start to see some relief from things that occur after the fact, like, as an example, if the community is acceptable to seeing the sale of the Highlands parcels. And I say that because this is public land and it's really important that the community decide what happens with those parcels. If the community decides it's acceptable to sell those parcels, then those funds can be put toward offsetting the costs of a water treatment plant, but that is a community discussion that will need to take place. The community discussion is expected to take about a year, is that?
I can certainly hope not.
Okay, maybe less than a year. So we're feeling good. But it's important to have that very vetted discussion to make sure everyone stays on the same page. Additionally, further down the road, there's the opportunity for future development to also offset costs associated with a water treatment plant. So what that would look like is we would have to take out the principal on the full amount of the loan. But as additional funds came back in through, if the community is interested, through the sale of a Highlands parcel, through additional development, those funds would come into the town and they would be used. We couldn't pay off the loan, so those funds would be used to subsidize and bring down the costs of the monthly debt service to the water bills. I just want to make sure that that's clear because it's a big deal. Additionally, on this course of action with water rates over time, another item that we have looked at to implement, and council has given the heads up to continue to model this scenario, is the seniors water rate program, whereby folks over the age of 65 who have owned their homes for over 20 years here in Minturn and use it as their primary residence will have their water rates freezed as of the present cost. And those rates will not go up over time associated with any additional costs for a water treatment plant. You know, we have, I'm just going to talk pretty frankly right now, we've got an amazing community where the land is worth a lot of money and homes are worth a lot of money, but we have working class folks in our community. So we've got folks who, quite frankly, I don't want to say it's land rich, cash poor is not the appropriate direct term, but it's that similar scenario where, you know, we've got a lot of really expensive houses, but if you move, you're moving out of the county probably, which a lot of folks love living here in town, and the council has deemed it a real value to keep our locals here in the community. So for folks over 65 who have owned their homes and live in them primarily for 20 years, rates would be frozen as of the time before any increases occur due to the water treatment plant costs. Next slide. Okay, so tonight we're looking to have a very open and public discussion about the realities of what we're facing as a community and as a utility. Minturn runs a water utility. So we need to have a really frank discussion about the utility and the utility needs for moving forward. Staff will be looking for council to decide on a course of action tonight and provide staff with that direction. There are risks associated with not making a decision tonight. Those include the increase on average of about $450,000 annually. Costs continue to go up. We have grant opportunities like the Bureau of Reclamation grant that we would lose out on if we should be awarded it. Things like that require that you give a start date to your project and an end date. So if we don't move forward, we won't be able to maintain those start and end dates, so we would lose any of those potential funds. And we would also see a delay with the EPA process for the congressionally directed spending dollars of the $3 million. I'm sorry that I ran through that so quickly, but I wanted to give everybody plenty of time to ask questions. We have Jim Mann. Jay, do we have Jim Mann on the line with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, thanks, Jim. So we have Jim Mann with us tonight. He is Minturn's municipal financial advisor. For those folks that have questions about the finance piece of this, Jim is here to help go through those pieces of this puzzle. We also have Jared Limke, I believe, with us, who is with HDR and has been the one overseeing the 30% design drawings and cost estimates we've received to date for the water treatment plant. Jared, are you here?
I don't see him on there, Michelle.
I'm gonna text Jared. Oh, he texted me 17 minutes ago asking me to give him a 30-minute heads up.
Okay, we'll get to Jared.
But we'll give Jared, I'll text him now, but we can certainly start on other questions while Jared jumps on.
So at this time, I think I'd like to hear from you folks. If there's anybody that has questions to ask about what we're discussing tonight, please come up and give us your name and address, and let's move. Yeah. Thank you, Mike.
I wrote it down, so I didn't say whatever.
Or you know.
Michael Boyd, 502.5 Eagle Street. This discussion is important for the town citizens, and we need to cover all the bases. I feel that we need to start with the money we have, and we need to fix our wells and maintain anything we can to keep our senior rights in place and keep maintenance up with what we have and keep it running as soon as possible. And then wait until we actually possibly sell something like the Highlands parcel. So we have the money, so we're all sitting here talking about which plant we want. Got off a little bit, but there, okay. And then we also need to think about our current citizens, which most, I'm not 65, but I definitely, I feel my water rates are high enough right now, okay? I'm not a second homeowner. You know, I hope one day when I die to leave the house to my kids, but my wife tells me right now, if I die, she can't afford the utilities, let alone the mortgage, you know, and you know, hopefully it's my first and last house. I moved to Minturn because I love Minturn, and I work hard every day to stay here. And you know, hopefully moving forward, you know, besides the sale of the Highlands or whatever, you know, new construction, any new construction, you know, we work on, and they pay more regardless of what's available. At this point, it seems like there will always be some type of moratorium in place. Cross Creek and our wells can only produce so much water, and when you're out, you're out. With that being said, we set aside additional taps in our account for current homeowners, and then see what we have left, if any, even with a new plant, or do we sell it first come, first serve, and then we're out again? How is that decided is a big question most of us here would probably like the answer to. We currently have a lot of construction that's going on in Minturn that people haven't even seen the impacts of all the construction that's getting ready that's going on. And when it's finished, it will promote and drive existing and new businesses. Then as well, do we have, I'm sure we do, but do we have a public document that shows every address in Minturn that and the amount of SFEs that are currently being paid for? Has council discussed what is going to be the fine for violations of unapproved ADUs? Moving forward, are the tap fees going up, some new construction pays for development? That should be easy to discuss, I would think. And then, take a breath, the Highlands is coming up. And I know that all of you have been working hard on this for a long time. And I think we're really getting close to potentially having money, but I'd rather see my rate go down than go up. But I'm not 65, but I've lived here over, I don't even know, 30-some years. And that being said, thank you for listening. Let's keep Minturn. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah. And I'm going to agree with Earl. Better mark this down. Michelle is the best town manager we've ever had. We're happy for her to go on to do better stuff for her and her family.
Thank you, Mike.
Krista Driscoll, 115 Nelson Avenue. We've been kicking this down the road and kicking this down the road and kicking this down the road. It would have cost half as much in 2018 as it's going to cost now. If we kick it down the road another year, it's going to cost another $500,000. It's going to keep going up and up and up. There's no limit to how much more expensive it could become if we wait. As we get that money coming in from all those options that Michelle mentioned, then that will offset our water bills. That's how that's supposed to work. It doesn't offset the loan, but it makes it cheaper for us. It also doesn't make any sense to just keep it at the status quo for development. That entire Battle Mountain development was approved a long time ago to have more homes, more businesses, whatever else was included in that. Keeping those Highlands parcels doesn't make any sense because they had already been allocated for that anyway. What has changed in our mindset in terms of development from when Battle Mountain was approved till now in terms of what we need for funds to run the town? Why keep the Highlands parcels? I haven't heard anyone say anything specifically about those parcels and how they might contribute to the public lands in our community and be a benefit, so unload them. And then in terms of what kind of treatment plant, I know that's a further discussion down the road, but in case I'm not here, it makes no sense to just keep it at what we've got in terms of volume. It also makes no sense not to have a redundant water supply based on all of the possible natural disasters that could happen around us. I guess that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. Do we have anyone else? Lynn? Oops, sorry.
Lynn Teach, 253 Pine Street. From some of the things that were mentioned tonight, I have a couple questions I'd like you to, if possible, consider. Number one, on the seniors, for people that have been here, say, 31 years, but are a year and a half away from turning 65, and not knowing when this senior freeze would develop. Is that when this process starts? Is it when it's finished? And number two, that would give them the time to reach 65, or at the time they reach 65, can you then freeze theirs as it goes along to keep those people here? Questions I'd like answered. The other thing I'd like, and you probably are looking into this and we'll probably find it at the open house, is that I know that Eagle County Open Space also buys land and that they have quite a bit of funds to put towards it. And is there a way maybe we can sell off some of it for development, but keep some of it for town open space? Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. George, didn't see you there. The podium's in the way.
It's good to be seen. Honorable Mayor and Town Council, friends and neighbors. Thank you, everybody, for being here and the time and thought everyone puts into all this stuff. It's It's a big deal. It's an important thing. I'm George Broden, 273 Boulder Street, for the record. And I guess I represent myself in my opinion. So, on our water system, as I understand it, and some of this maybe I'll repeat for you guys, that we have two parts to our senior water rights. We have Cross Creek stream flow, and we have Cross Creek wells. I'm taking that as that's the composite that makes up our senior water rights, and either one of those on their own doesn't appear to me like it would do what we need to do, that we need to have both of them together functioning in order to service the town now and as we move forward. The current system obviously needs maintenance in the form of a couple of different things that I think that we've clearly overlooked for a long time. One of them is cleaning the muck and sediment out of the diversion ponds, which the concrete structure, which first impedes Cross Creek, lets it widen to a pond where we draw our water. To the best of my knowledge, all the fish poop and everything else that's run down here since it started has never been cleared out. When the water runs down in runoff time and stirs it all up, the turbidity is amazing. The numbers that I've seen when I sat in some of the seats that you guys are sitting in, and I can't help but think it's not that expensive to suck all the muck out of there, and that clearer pond would help a lot with turbidity, which we're buying time right now to do a new system. It would help the new system, but I think it would help the one you have band-aided together work and produce better water probably for a long time. And it looks like a maintenance item that should be looked into, I think. Jared may have, and I just never heard. But the other thing that comes to mind for me is that we had some difficulties when we installed our line, and the process as well as we were building our tank. We installed the line to, I think it's well 4, is that correct, Michelle? Up to the plant. We ran into some difficulties, and I think that line itself should be revisited, maybe replaced. We just had some construction difficulties that I think left the line in a position where it could be jeopardy over time. The well 4, I think, is the one that you guys have determined or has been determined to be the one that isn't operating at capacity. Is that correct? Is it well 3 or well 4?
Well 3 is not operating at the capacity as was expected, but well 4 is the well that is the filter screening is compromised and will eventually clog without the ability to be repaired. It will require a full replacement.
Okay, so thank you. And so well 4, I think you should look at replacing that and get that line repaired at the same time. These are maintenance things. They're not going to offset the price of a water plant, but we're not on a fast time track to get a water plant. It doesn't seem like. In the interim, I think these things need to be done anyway. Let's see here. So well 4, in my opinion, should be re-drilled and replaced right where it is, which is just a replacement of existing item. And I see solutions when I look at the world. And Michelle says there's a process and a permit. And we reach crossroads. I respect your opinion that these are the way things need to be done, but I don't always think this is the way they have to be done. Okay.
I'll let the National Forest Service know.
Good. Yeah. I'll give my phone number.
There you go.
I looked at the plan, the 30% plan for the membrane plant, and I'm in favor of a membrane plant. I think that's the most adaptable plant that I saw while I was sitting there, and we were seeing different plans for different plants. It's not the least expensive, but it seems like they can make different membranes, and as things change, that it can be modified to keep up with some of the technology that's going on. So I'm in favor of that, but when I looked at the plans, I noticed they have in there a dry well. And a dry well is located near where the plant would be built. And that dry well is where water will be dumped from the plant. I don't know what the origin of this plant is and how we end up with wastewater in this membrane plant, but we don't have any sewer there at all. So the dry well is a good remedy for being able to dump the water and not necessarily dumping it right back in the stream. But this dry well is upstream or up gradient from well 4. So depending on what goes into it, it could run right on down and end up being the water we pull out of well 4. And I'm just concerned from a design point of view that this is something that should be looked at pretty closely before we say this is the way to do that. Maybe we do a dry well below well 4 and just pipe the water down to that. Again, I see solutions. I'm not an engineer. Never claimed I was. You can tell we've had discussions. So, before we get to water rates, would a pretreatment system be needed for Cross Creek well water or stream water? And if the answer to that is no, then don't build it. But can we allow space, and could it be built afterwards if the time does come that we're going to bring water from the Eagle River up, and that's the water that's contaminated enough that needs pretreatment? I don't think Cross Creek water needs it. Again, you may have new data that I'm not familiar with. So I would say pretreatment, plan for it, but don't build it, don't pay for it. Just allow space so that when that water comes in, or if that water comes in, the pretreatment could be added at that time. And if it never comes in, then all of us that are paying these bills didn't have to pay for something we didn't need. I'm in large favor of looking at the highlands and looking at the pristine wilderness of it. And if you've driven up Tigawan Road and you look right across to your right, where there's a big meadow before you turn and go up the hill, if you walk straight across that meadow and go up that grade, that hill, you're in the highlands. It's beautiful. I walked up there once years ago when the Battle Mountain project was going on with my wife, and we it was gorgeous. We walked up to see where the diversion was, and one of the things I recall was the willows were this high and came around the corner, and the bear prints were about this big in the mud, and I was looking around thinking maybe I shouldn't be here. Got that feeling here right now, but anyway, here I am.
You just have to outrun her though.
One more minute, George.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The other thing I would like to say about, I think it's wonderful to offer a break, a reduction, some relief for the water rates in the water plant. From where I sit, and I'm not flush and I'm not rich, I'm not anything else, but I want to opt out of that officially right now, even though I would qualify. I've been here since 1984. I'm old enough to be past the 65 limit and not have to count on Father Time getting me there. But I'd like to opt out right now, and I'll pay my share when the time comes, and I think we need a new water plant. Thank you for the time you put in for being here.
Thanks, George. We'll get you those questions you just asked about the treatment plant as soon as Jared gets back online.
If Jared's listening.
Oh, he is. Jared, are you there?
Apparently he's just listening.
Or you just keep
I wouldn't answer either. I wouldn't answer either.
So, Jared, we just had a couple of questions, and one of them was, is pretreatment needed if we just do the water treatment plant for the town? Or is that just mainly for the Eagle River diversion if we do that?
So if Jared's unable to unmute and speak, I can indicate that pretreatment is needed should we utilize the secondary water source off of the Eagle River. Cross Creek is a great water source and should not require the pretreatment option as far as that is concerned. George is further correct that the opportunity remains open for building capacity space for pretreatment without purchasing the facilities themselves, the skids and the pipes and all those things that can come later down the road should that option become available. It does save money to build the building once to the capacity potentially needed, as opposed to building a building, deciding later you want pretreatment, having to build a secondary building with all the associated infrastructure.
And the dry well question?
I have no idea about the dry well question.
I don't either.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, makes sense. Jared can text you maybe. Okay, anyone else would like to come up? Spencer?
Spence Neubauer, 444 Eagle River Street. I just had one question to Mike Sawyer. What, for my cursory Googling, the longer we have a moratorium, the more the town is at risk of being sued. So if we continue to do nothing and nothing, and it looks like 1 year is kind of where you start getting into that. We're at year, what, 4 or 5 of our moratorium?
2 years, and we're almost at the 2-year mark per the new legislation.
Okay, so I do think we're under the gun a little bit more than some people seem to think.
That's an issue, yeah. Oh, come on, George.
Go ahead, George.
Let
him
him
go.
anyone else
Let him go.
first?
Go ahead.
Anyone else want to come up and speak before George does again?
Go ahead, George.
Sit down. Oh, Virginia?
He used to be married.
Sit down.
Mr. George.
Yeah, let him.
Hi, Virginia Olson, 298 Eagle Street. I'm sorry, I've missed a lot of meetings. What is the lawsuit for CFS that you mentioned? Is there?
Oh, we are in water court
Okay,
and not a lawsuit.
Okay.
Water court applying for a new water right.
okay,
To take 4 CFS cubic square feet of water off of the Eagle River, which would give the town a secondary
okay.
water source. And that water source, the town has the ability to augment because all of our augmentation opportunities are on the Eagle River. We can't augment Cross Creek,
Okay.
but it's
So,
not a lawsuit.
no redundancy with just Cross Creek.
That's right.
The only way we get redundancy is with inclusion of the Eagle River.
That's
which is
right.
concerning to me. I don't want to drink the Eagle River water.
We would only use that water if
Yeah.
Cross Creek is, we don't.
It would be an emergency source that we would utilize at that time, if there was a must.
And if Battle Mountain, if we decide to let Battle Mountain in on the system, they get that water,
Okay,
not the Cross Creek water.
There's a little redundancy with the wells.
okay.
A little.
And we switched to that when the water gets too turbid. But if we ever went to use the Eagle River water, we would have to have a pretreatment capacity.
Okay, that makes sense. I would like that pretreatment capacity.
But that's,
Also, not a big fan of big developments. I love Tigawon Road. I love our wild lands and our wild spaces. And I understand, the need for funds and money, but I don't necessarily believe that increasing development increases funds. But maybe you guys can tell me, are we seeing an increase in our monetary coffers with the developments happening now?
Yeah, that's a really poignant question. So we are seeing an increase in the enterprise fund reserves for infrastructure, an increase in reserves that specifically can help offset infrastructure costs. Now, we would politely ask that you please take part in the Highlands public discussions that Scott and his team are going to be having, because one of the topics that'll be on the table is it left open space? Is it sold to open space? Is that an opportunity? How does that play out? And Scott will lead the community through those discussions of what y'all would like to see happen.
Okay. And so the increase in the, what did you call the coffer, the money?
Right, so
is that coming from the water taps, or what's that coming from?
Yeah, so we have received an increase in the reserves that can help offset infrastructure costs from incoming water tap fees.
Okay.
I don't know if we've gotten Belden yet, Jay, but I would like Minturn North as an example. Those fees can go directly toward offsetting infrastructure costs. Jim Mann has identified that for every $1 million we can save off of the water treatment plant, Jim is at $7 and something cents that we save on our monthly water bills for every $1 million we bring in. And it doesn't sound like a big number, and it's because we're a small community. And so we don't have the population to spread these costs out over 10,000 people. And correct me if I'm wrong, but we don't want to. Right. So the only other way we can look for funds is through grants and congressionally directed spending type opportunities.
Okay, thanks, Michelle. Thank you.
You're bad, George.
Oh, George, come on.
George.
Go get it, George.
Another question came up. Can construction use tax be diverted to the enterprise fund?
It cannot.
In terms of the water moratorium, what happens when you physically reach the point with your, you have a built-in reserve of water you can provide, when you physically reach the point where you can't produce water anymore? A moratorium has allowed us to not reach the point where we've exceeded capacity. We then do blackouts that I get water today and Lynn gets water tomorrow. Michelle gets it on Friday. What, do we have a rolling, you can use your water, or
so
what sort of remedy is there for just flat running out of water?
Right. So the time of year that would expected to occur would be in the summer months when outdoor irrigation is at its height. We would not expect that to occur in the winter months. So then what would happen is it would be water restrictions on your outdoor irrigation is how that would occur.
Okay, and then take it one more step and take it into growth. No new homes because we're hitting this in the summertime. I mean, the moratorium has served a very important purpose. But when the water plant has reached capacity and we know what it is, there is no more. What, it seems like there has to be another legal way to do this.
The moratorium has served a purpose, but as was already asked, legislation's been passed that put a time limit on it. We, as a municipality, have to show good faith effort to fix the problem. One. Secondarily, code has to be readjusted to show proof as new builds come in that they can be sourced per SFE.
So does legislation have a magic wand to go, here's more water?
No, legislation has a magic wand to say you can't slap a Band-Aid, which is a moratorium, forever. There is a time limit. That time limit is 2 years in 5.
The state law also provides specifically that towns cannot permit development if they don't have water. So it's not clear.
So we abandon the moratorium?
It's not clear. It's not clear.
And we say no more building.
Well, then we run into another problem, and I don't know if Mike Sawyer passed out asleep in Prague, but he can certainly pipe in and explain the legal aspect of it. I know where you're going with it, George, but the bottom line is the moratorium's gonna have to dry up, no pun intended.
I expect it to go away. I just don't know what replaces it because.
I think that's something for our lawyers to advise us, not counsel.
Again, thank you guys.
It kind of boils down to a timeline, right? So, we need to think about a few things here. We're trying to figure out all the numbers, trying to figure out what's the best path here. We've spent a lot of money and a lot of procrastination over the last 5 years, and it's cost us dearly. Back in 2018, when we approved the water CIP, we had the cost of that was going to be $19 million, and that was not just a water treatment plant. That was the Eagle River diversion. That was repairing all of our infrastructure throughout town, Bellum Bridge, all those kind of things were all included with that. Now it's almost that much just for a water treatment plant. If we delay, then literally CDPHE could come out and say, okay, we found PFAS in your stream. The sand filter can't deal with it, so you got to shut down. And then, so there's a lot of, and Jared, if once he comes online, if he can, we went through a lot, spent quite a bit of money on consultants. Every one of our engineering and legal consultants say, get off your ass and get this membrane treatment plant done. None of them said staying with the sand filter, rehabbing John Bulk, who has been managing our water treatment plant for 2 or 3 decades now. He's the guy with the water license that keeps our plant running. Said it would cost probably between $5 and $8 million to restore the one sand filter that's still working and bring it up to code. So do we spend $5 or $8 million on that, or do we spend that toward a water treatment plant? The other thing is, as Michelle laid out, we have millions of dollars of grants available to us that would be delayed, and the Bureau of Reclamation grant, which we don't have yet, but we're applying for it now, which has the most wealth, I think, behind dealing with the kind of problems we have. That money will be gone if we don't make a decision tonight. So here we are. So I ask that y'all think about your future, because sooner or later we've got to do it. If we wait 3 years, it's going to be a lot more expensive, and we carry risk. Jared made it very clear that with a utility, you avoid risk like the plague. We have been at risk for quite some time now. We cannot keep procrastinating, or we'll be in trouble. We have Jim Bannon on board, who has put all the numbers together. And so, Jim, could you give us a quick layman's layout of your memo?
Sure. So with the latest projection in terms of what the cost of the water treatment plant is roughly $14 million. On top of that, you've got the design and engineering cost and construction management cost, which brings the project to about $16.3 million. When you take into consideration the funds that the town currently has committed for the project, which is $3 million from the congressionally directed spending that was approved, I want to say 2 years ago, you have a total project that would require a borrowing of approximately $13,645,000. Based upon growth and infill that is anticipated to occur in the town, we're looking at about 400 and some taps that would be added to the total. Those taps would pay their fair share in terms of coming on board, which would be about $16,000 a tap, if I remember my numbers absolutely correctly. It's anticipated that the 90% design would be completed to the point where you would be in a position to start the project in 2026, which would require the fully amortizing loan to occur in 2027. The impact in 2027 would require a debt service charge under your current covenants of about $96.80 per month. And that's the additional that you would have to add to your current water utility rates, monthly rates that you would be dealing with. As Michelle pointed out earlier, if for every $1 million you could reduce that cost with additional dollars to offset the cost of the plant, or somehow reducing the cost of the plant, you would be reducing that impact to the ratepayer by about $7.28 a month. So that's the impact that would happen for every dollar, or for every $1 million you cut off the cost of the plant, or every $1 million you come up with additional revenue sources from grants or other aids that you might be able to come up with. That's kind of the nuts and bolts of where you stand right now. We did, you know, I want to emphasize that we did establish the base rate and the volumetric rates in a position to generate enough capital that you didn't have to increase those in the first couple of years of their implementation. By about 2027, depending upon growth and development, you may be needing to look at a 2 or 3% increase on those base and volumetric rates as well as those costs continue to go up. But that's the base look at what you're kind of looking at. Right now, projected for 2027, the average customer is paying about $146 a month. The requirement would be that $97 increase, which would take it to, and I apologize, my screen is glitching. It'll show up eventually, but I think it was like $243 a month.
That's per SFE, correct?
Yeah, that's per SFE. That's one SFE.
So, $96.80 per SFE per month per person. That's a big lump, and it's going to be really difficult for a lot of folks, particularly given that our water is already about the most expensive or third most expensive in the state of Colorado. So I want to put a little historical context here. I want to go back to 2019 because at that time, people did not want, we had the opportunity to connect with the Eagle River Water District. And it was pretty clear that the town didn't want to do that. And I will also say, I mean, the one good thing is we may have the best water in the state. Our water is fantastic. And I don't know that we have to be that much afraid of future regulation because our water is just naturally, as it is, pretty amazing. But I'm thinking, you know, it might be time to, you know, bite the bullet. We got to do this at some point. And even though we don't already have the Highlands sold, it's likely that we can get some kind of significant money selling them some way, whether it's open space or part open space or 2 big ranches or whatever. It's worth a lot of money. And that money can be used to pay down because of this, the special nature of the lawsuit. We can use, as Michelle pointed out, we can use that money to pay down our monthly bills. But it's still very scary. It's a very scary number. And it doesn't include the pre-treatment. Any pre-treatment would have to be paid by somebody else. But if we can sell Highlands, get some significant money, maybe pay it down by a half or something like that, we'll still have incredibly high water bills, but that's a better option. But, you know, we've gone for decades and decades without putting much money into our infrastructure, and it's hurting us now.
Jesse? Got a little list here. First, I want to say thanks to everybody for showing up. Much appreciated. Shows you guys all care. Question I had was on our $3 million. Do we have a time frame that we have to use that by? The money that we already have?
The 3 million was accepted back in 2022 under the guise that we were shovel ready. So we are not shovel ready. So it's a bit of a conversation I have not wanted to broach,
Okay,
given that situation.
okay. That was one of the big concerns I had was, because I knew, you know, we got it when we built the water tank. That was, I think, 1 million of it, and then we got the other 2, and I just didn't want to see us lose it because, you know, we're dragging our feet. The other thing I want to do is give my plug for the Highlands. The way we ended up with these parcels is pretty much the teeth we had in this water service agreement is what we had to stand on for actually winning this lawsuit. And I feel that if we do sell that or it becomes open space, I think that's my preference, but you never know with Eagle County if they're going to do it. But I feel that that one would be, everybody would benefit from it. The money that comes off of it would bring your water rate down. We weren't talking like having a big development up there. You know, we were thinking maybe like 2 parcels and somebody could build 2 trophy homes if we went that route. But really open space would be the best fit for that. Other question I had, we keep talking about, you know, the freezing the senior rates. I know there's a few in town that has multiple properties. Are we gonna look at just like being able to do one?
It's a council decision.
Yeah, okay, so that'll be something that we discuss then. Okay, and George brought it up, and I know we're working on it, and I think Jared's actually trying to get permits. I think it's very important that we get that well that's compromised up and running, especially if it's 2 to 3 years down the road to get a water plant. We've got to have that because we use that basically for when we have the Trinity in spring. The wells is what we're actually running, and we have senior rights on that, and I don't want to see us jeopardize losing our senior rights. I think it was 80 gallons a minute on the wells, and we really need the wells. And then the other one was the tank, having the liner done on it up at the tank 1 to actually keep it from leaking, and that way it actually has doubles our fire flow storage capacity.
Yes, CDPHE has increased their regulations on tank rehabilitation. So we're now trying to jump through those additional.
That's what I thought. I thought Jared was working on getting permitting
That's right.
on it. Okay. And then I think we still need to really hit hard with grants. I know we have, and I thank the town for doing what they've done for, you know, staff for getting the grants. I just think every opportunity we have, we got to turn that rock over and look. And the last thing I have, I attended a holiday party that was a county-wide party last week, and Jeremy with the town of Gypsum pointed out they have $83 million wastewater treatment plant they got to do. They did a bus tour last year to go show everybody what's involved with it. I'd like to see us maybe, or we'll be able to get us a core bus and do something in the summertime and show everybody actually up at the water plant what's all involved and what we're facing, and that way you get a hands-on and a visual of it and get a better understanding of it.
Great idea, Gus.
That's all I have.
I just have a question. What's taking, oh,
Just so people on TV.
Virginia Olson, 298 Eagle Street. What's taking so long? Do we not have the money? Do we need to agree? Why has this been going on for so long?
Yeah.
Sorry, I missed a lot of meetings again.
We are broke.
It's the money
I
thing?
refer you to the slide that starts in June of 2018 to the present
Is
day.
it the money thing?
It's everything. Indecision, money, you name it.
So we need
We've turned over in every
membrane, redundancy, filter, system.
Well,
Let's go.
We thought Battle Mountain originally agreed to pay for this.
Yes, I know.
So for years, I think that was our plan.
Right, okay.
So that is definitely part of it.
Yeah, I'd point out that the settlement with Battle Mountain, while being worked on longer than this, has only been public for a little over a year, and we've only finalized that agreement September of this year. So on that timeline, there is something to add that there was ongoing negotiations to resolve the status of those millions of dollars the town was counting on to build this thing through the acquiring of land parcels instead. So it's not like it was completely being ignored. There's a very major process happening at the same time as these water treatment plants were being evaluated.
The whole water supply system, the policy considerations have changed totally. Like in 2019, we told Eagle River Water they could go their own way. We didn't want them. Well, now they tell us they don't want us. They won't take new people any longer. But that's just a change in how the whole system.
So, a variety of issues. One, everybody's died on this hill over the last 6 years about autonomy and independence. So that means keeping Minturn means we're running our own utility. That costs money, repair, replacement, servicing, things George talked about, things been brought up on all these studies. The longer we delay, what's in a packet, if you dare want to look at it, all the different possibilities of getting funds. I think there are 38 in that right now. We may qualify for 3. The process is long and protracted. The second we delay, the process starts again. On average, it takes a year to start all over again. No guarantee Nagoose or anybody else is going to give us a dime. We have spent almost $500,000 on paralysis by analysis. $500,000. Nothing has been done. We have the highest water rates, or you can argue the fact, 3rd highest water rate in the state for a reason. That process has to change. There's no way you can tell me the status quo is the right answer if we are staring at the water rates that we have present day. Last time I checked, I think we paid a week ago. Delay per year, on average, as Michelle noted, plus or minus, and Jim Mann can correct this based on current economic indices, $450,000 minimum increase in expense from there, period. As for seniors, economic needs, et cetera, absolutely, we're always going to be able to look at that. That's not like it's a done deal. Slapping a date, sorry, you're out of luck. You were 64 years old and 364 days, sorry, Lynn, you're out. That's not what we're going to do.
Put me on that.
Yeah, I know. I'm giving you a compliment. Where do you want to go with it?
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
From you, Tom, I'll take it.
As far as the well repair, you have to remember one thing. You know this, George. It's on Forest Service land. We, in no way, shape, or form, can guarantee walking up to Forest Service say we got to replace that well. Oh, you need a new well. You know as well as I do what that entails to get the Forest Service to approve that.
Actually, it's on our land, though.
There's debate. It's not. It is not on our land.
I thought it was.
Nope. It is not.
We need a survey.
Oh, we did a Minturn thing a few decades
We need
ago.
a survey.
Right. We drove a stake in the ground, claimed it was ours. It's
Stop
Forest
talking
Service
about
land.
it publicly, that would be great.
Actually, I gotta disagree a little, Tom. We have done something, and since 2019, we got a new water tank. I mean, we moved to 30% design. So just saying that we haven't done anything, I'll disagree with, because I see a lot happening here.
We've got
There
water
is.
meters.
But this is the next step, and I'm driving to the fact that the water rate keeps going up. It's gonna go up now, and I'm just stating that if we stop here with the progress that's been made, the water tank, et cetera, totally agree. That's not gonna fix the problem. That's all I'm driving at. And so as George noted, as Michelle pointed out, there's actually decision 1, 2, and 3. I would submit it's really in between decision 1 and 2, which is the membrane plant with capacity, space, building, et cetera, not the pre-treatment. Got it. There has to be redundancy, as everybody has already brought up routinely. Highlands, other funding sources, as those come online, those will pay down our side. And then hopefully, to be honest, the only people that would absolutely need it, unless they build their own water plant, and even then they're going to need it, would be Battle, and they're going to have to pay for it. But if the capacity is not there, the space, then we've got other issues. And so the happy medium on the funds is, unfortunately, it's a cart before horse situation, because we need the system to be fully functional to have the flexibility and capacity just to serve what has already been agreed upon. You denoted you don't like development. I think we all readily agree that. Unfortunately, Battle Mountain's happening. Minturn North is happening.
Been
The school
happening for a
district's
long
happening.
time.
Malloy's gonna look like an entirely different world, as is Tiglawn. It's happening. We got other fish to fry as well. So I'm just driving at the fact that totally agree, but we need to move forward in regards to a system that's gonna serve us. Lastly, as Spence brought up, and we've had a discussion on, the moratorium is a Band-Aid and unfortunately cannot continue. And all the points you brought up, George, are all valid and all things that need to be discussed, but we have to have a solution so we are not legally exposed as we move forward. Key point, because I don't even want to get into the nuts and bolts of how much money this town has spent in the last 2 decades on legal fees. I really don't want to pay anymore.
Well, go ahead.
Yes, paper play.
We haven't spent that much, and that's one of the reasons we got into so much trouble. And the money that we spent on the Battle Mountain is the reason we got those litigation, is the reason we've gotten the 250 acres. And that was, and what? Yeah, okay. And, you know, we pay for our town attorney like every other town has to. And a lot of the Belden litigation, our litigation expenses were covered by insurance. So let's not always make attorney fees the whipping boy.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting the attorney fees are whipping boys, but I am suggesting we make sound decisions that don't put us in a legally exposed situation.
Of course.
When we know it's coming.
Just real quickly, before we go, Mike, with you, is there anybody online that's had their hand raised for a while? Jay?
There are people online, but nobody has had their hand raised. If anybody would like to speak, please raise your
I
hand.
just have listening to everybody talk so far.
Go ahead, Mike. Name?
Michael Boyd, 502.5 Eagle Street, Minturn. You know, I definitely understand, you know, what you're saying, that something, you know, has to be done to start moving forward. I get that part. You know, I definitely still agree with Gussie and George. We still need to do maintenance for the time being.
Absolutely.
And last but not least, if we're getting crushed, hopefully it doesn't start anytime soon, but if we're going to get crushed at $90 per SFE, which is more than for a regular one SFE house, which is 60 or 70%, then I think that it's only fair and realistic for you guys to, you know, hopefully we can push that off until it's due, as well as to really consider that we're bumping water taps 60%. Because if we're hitting the current homeowners, new construction should pay. Thank you.
Michelle's got a quick comment for that.
So I can respond to say that Jim Mann has identified if the council should direct to go with a new membrane water treatment plant, tap fees do go up in association. They have to go up via a rational nexus for how we got that fee. You can't just arbitrarily charge.
90's hard rationale.
Yeah, so the tap fees for development do go up, as well as system improvement fees go up. And what was the other question?
You were concerned about when the actual rate.
Yes, so regards to the state revolving loan fund, application is January 2026. Board review is March 26. Go to bond in May of 26. And Jim, I think we identified that the first payment, I think, is due August 26.
It would be sometime in the second half of the year, correct?
Second half of 2026 would be when that first debt service payment would come into effect.
No, thank you for your response on that. You know, rationale right there is a whole board of rational people that tap fees, like $2,000 is nothing. if we're paying 70% as a homeowner that currently live here, rationale,
It's actually
try to raise it as much.
16,000.
16,000.
So based on the math that Jim just put out there for you,
Yes, sir.
so that's $6.4 million. So if we're doing $7 per mil, $42 drop right off the bat for the households based on 400 taps was the calculation.
What if we go to 19 or even better?
Rational nexus.
That seems rational to me.
From your and all of ours too. We're paying for this too, you know. But I think it's important to note that that growth. I know we've always avoided growth. We want to stay at a, you know, there's less people in our town right now than there were when I moved here in 1981.
You know why?
It was 1,088, I think, in 1981.
Second
It's
homeowners?
1,033 now. Okay, so yeah, who knows what people moving back and forth. Hang on, I'm not done yet. So to Tom's point and yours, we have the processes thanks to our staff and our legal people in engineering that a tap fee is 16,000 or more. The system improvement fee is a fee that goes to new constructed houses or commercial. That is a per square foot cost. And last time I looked, it was $15 and change per square foot. I don't know what it is now. I think it's higher now. So if you take a 3,000 square foot house and multiply it by, 15 to 18, whatever that price is, that's significant money. So any people coming in and building in our town are going to contribute greatly to the water and enterprise system. So that's why we are interested in moderate growth. We have people in council that say it's radical growth, but the more there's two things that happen. One is the enterprise fund gets fed a lot of money every time we grow some. Secondly, we have another user that's paying monthly rates. These are the kind of things that we have to think about. Growth is not all bad. Those highlands, if we happen to sell them as ranch lots, do you know that the ranch lots, according to CPW, it has less impact on the wildlife than open space? Open space is great, but it pays a lot less. But open space means people can go hiking all through that area. And I don't know if you've ever walked the highlands, but that is loaded with elk. I mean, there's droppings everywhere. And so if you have trails going through there, the elk are gone from that area. So always, these kind of things, we're not going to be a packed metropolis, but we do need more people in our town. The other thing is we keep on going on the path we're going. Can anybody in this room afford to buy a lot and build a house? I couldn't have. I bought my house in '85. I'm a lucky one. So what locals, middle class folks, like workforce folks like we are, can live in our town? So we also have a couple opportunities perhaps to actually do real affordable housing. It's a long story, but understand I'm an optimist. This is not saying it's going to happen, but there's a chance that we could get some land, Forest Service land, on a 99-year lease. So, which would give us and all we have to do is supply workforce housing for the Forest Service. That's the Farm Bill that's gotten delayed by all the gamesmanship in Congress, but everybody feels like that'll happen. Now, that's just me saying this, not a fact, but if everything falls in place, we have some opportunities to where we can actually have folks that are locals that can afford to live in our town instead of, vacation homes all over the place, that kind of thing. So I have nothing against rich folks. I don't. They're good for our businesses too. But we have to have also a balance. And so that's another thing I've been thinking about for a very long time. So
I just have a question. I mean, the most immediate thing that's new that's going to happen is 150 new homes at the school district. Do they pay tap fees? I'm thinking they don't.
No, they don't
Yes.
pay, they do
So
pay.
they will be paying, I'm so sorry,
Go ahead.
as the 2011 annexation agreement, which is Ordinance 3, 2011, they are identified through water attorney math to get a certain number of taps for free. What our water attorneys and the school district's attorneys have determined is that they get 15.3 taps for free. The rest are paid at market rate.
So we do get that. We do get that.
That's correct.
And who doesn't want teachers in your community?
Yeah.
Okay. Lynn, please.
I just have a clarification question. Lynn Teach, 253 Pine Street. And perhaps you can refresh my memory on this. Currently, we have water for Minturn North. We have water for the school district. We have some infill water. We have Belden's water. We have a part of Midtown's water. The figure that this treatment plant increases by 400 taps, is that the smallest we can do? Is 400? Because we're starting out with a smaller treatment plant, correct? And is that where the pretreatment comes in? Because if we were to give it to Battle Mountain, their growth would have to have the pretreatment, and that water would go through the same plant. I'm a little thrown with that 400 figure.
Right, so the 450 was a number determined by the council in 2019. It is not associated with the production capacity of a new water treatment plant. However, what we're looking at right now for cost savings is a water treatment membrane plant that can serve up to that 450 and no more, because we wanted to keep costs down. It's not an exponential ratio if we were to expand that to allow for additional growth. But I just told Jared, give me an estimate for the minimum water treatment plant that can be built for this town, knowing we had this 450 that was identified back in 2019. So the ability to increase the size and allow more skids to come in as additional growth may or may not be approved through the development process is an option available.
So it could go up to 450. It wouldn't be coming in at 450.
The one that we're looking at now would be coming in at 450.
So I question where 400 more homes would go in this town.
That is for others to decide. You also asked about Battle North and their service. Battle North in the 2008 annexation agreement and through the water court decrees for our water rights cannot be served off of Cross Creek's senior water rights. They can only be served off of junior water rights. As we discussed, Minturn doesn't have the ability to augment our junior water rights on Cross Creek if we are injuring any downstream users with a call on the water. So the ability to serve Battle must come from a water source on the Eagle River.
Okay, thank you, Michelle.
George?
I know I've been absent for a long time. We elected you guys, make the decision. You're here for tonight. Let the world according to George and seeing solutions in this. I would say give John Volk a fighting chance. Clean that sediment pond and put a new well in. Talk to the Forest Service. It's a replacement well. We're not changing anything but putting in new equipment. They get new trucks every year or 2 years. It's no different. Then build an oversized building, one that's big enough to accommodate this pretreatment if indeed it ever happens. Maybe partition it off and only heat the part we're going to use. And then raise the water fees on every goddamn thing. We can't build a house now, Earl. I mean, to think in the future that the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow with whatever Congress bill or Forest Service lease might really actually do something positive money-wise for the town, and it's wonderful to look towards that. But I think the reality of it is we're gonna pay more for our water, and the longer we wait to make a decision, the more it's gonna be. So I support you guys, whatever you decide. I support it, and I'll pay my shares as long as I'm able. Thank you.
Thank you, George.
I have just a question on the money. I'm sorry. I didn't plan on asking questions. There's a lot of good stuff. So the quote $90, right? It's just thrown out there. The 90 SFVs. The 90 SFVs technically, like, that's not set in, my question is that set in stone? Because potentially if we sell the Highlands parcels, which whoever wants to give us 18 million sounds good to me at this point, but is the $90 set in stone, or once we figure out what's going on with Highlands and
It's not set in stone, Michael. That's what we're talking about. Each year, as funds come in, it goes directly to pay down the ratepayers' bill.
And hopefully we're going to get a portion of that before we even raise the ratepayers' bill.
Maybe so. The Highlands at a minimum is a year, minimum. That's where we're at.
You got kids in college up here, where are you at?
Rob, go ahead. Name and
Rob
address.
Davis, 1796 Main Street. Pretty much agree with George for the most part, but not all. I am for the membrane plant. I'd like to see it happen as soon as we can find a way to pay for it reasonably. I think the property that we have up there on the Highlands is pristine, and well, as close to pristine as you can get in this county. So I'd hate to see it, totally ruined. But I understand that some development is necessary. Oh, and one other question about the treatment plant. This is the modular one that as more need comes on, is plugging in. Okay. So I'm for that. I'm with George. I'll pay my fair share. Me and my 7 little houses, we're fine with that.
Don't you have kids in college too?
I do have kids in college.
If you're amenable, I got another house.
Yeah.
To pay for.
But what I'm really concerned about is the future of the development in Eagle County coming this way, and Eagle River Water and Sanitation is not always our friend, and don't take verbatim what they say, because they act in their own self-interest, as they should. They're a quasi-governmental agency. I worry about an alignment between them and a big developer who's maybe somebody's going to do a big land trade for from the bike park to Elk Creek. You don't know that. It can't happen. And what's going to happen there? So how do we gird ourselves against Eagle River Water and Sanitation?
Have a functional, flexible water treatment plant that supports our town and not be relying on Eagle River Water District. That's the answer.
But a developer can come in and get their own water rights from the Eagle River.
They can.
And they will have to pay for an Eagle River Water District standardized treatment plant, which is currently the situation with Battle North. They're gonna have to do that.
Kate wants to talk.
There's only, okay, Kate, go ahead, please.
I would like to hear the rest of public comment if there are more people with comments to make.
I have a comment that was emailed in
Good to see you too, man.
earlier today. If no one else in the room was wanting to make a comment, or if there weren't any folks online. Jay, is anyone online wanting to make a comment?
No, ma'am.
Okay. This is from Kate Birchnall at 264 Taylor Street. She says, "Good evening, Town Council, and thank you for the opportunity to weigh in on this important topic. I would like to encourage town council and town staff to reconsider the possibility of partnering with Battle North on construction of a single water treatment plant between the two entities to serve all residents of Minturn in a more efficient and cost-effective way. I am certainly not privy to all conversations, nor do I pretend to know the ins and outs of this decades-long conversation. But with the settlement behind us, and I want to offer my congratulations and sincere appreciation for the monumental effort and dedication that went into that, we need to start thinking of future Battle North residents as Minturn residents and do what is in our best interests. I am not an engineer, but I know that building one right-sized treatment plant to serve all Minturn residents will be significantly cheaper than building two smaller treatment plants in a very close proximity. And it's not just upfront construction costs that concern me, though they certainly do. Two treatment plants mean two streams of operation, maintenance, and repair costs each and every year to be funded by the residents of Minturn, many of whom already feel stretched by our high water rates. Battle North is obliged to fund the construction and ongoing operation, maintenance, and repair of their own water, whatever that might look like. So why not take advantage of that funding in a way that lessens the burden for all Minturn residents? ? I know there are real and valid concerns about protecting Minturn's water rights and keeping them separate from other entities, but we need only look to the rest of the valley to see an example of how it is possible to operate one larger and more efficient system while protecting and maintaining individual water rights. It may be the case that Battle North has not initiated these conversations with the town, but it is not too late. And that is not a legitimate reason to let an opportunity of partnership, efficiency, and cost savings pass us. I urge council and staff not to let the arguments and distrust of the past jade us such that we miss the very real opportunities of the present. Thank you for your time.
So if I could speak, go ahead.
I have a question about that. So I think I hear you saying that we're not allowed to give Cross Creek water to Battle Mountain. That would jeopardize our senior water rights.
No, our senior water rights are not allowed to serve Battle Mountain through the decrees that were agreed, the water decrees that were agreed to as part of the annexation, 2008 annexation, entirety of that process.
Because it seems like we just happen to have 250 extra water, Cross Creek water SFEs, which is exactly what Battle Mountain needs, and would be a very cheap way that would incent them to probably pay for our water treatment plant if we could give them that water, even though that would limit our ability to grow any further. But even so, that entails a lot of growth. And we'd end up with the cheapest possible water bills that way. But but you're saying that that would not be allowed. I'm wondering if there's any way to revisit.
Yes, through water court.
Through water court. Because that would be kind of a killer solution here.
So,
but it wouldn't limit the amount of future development that we could have. But
if I could add some clarity here, as you know, with the settlement agreement, we said we're not going to serve you water. Okay, there was a lot of mistrust back then, believe it or not. So we said, and we also said the settlement was based on the only place you could go for water is for Eagle River and Sanitation District to build the water plant. Well, so over time, there have been some chats here and there. So they may be interested in joining our water system, but if they do, they have to pay for everything that they're doing. We haven't said yes or no. We have a long ways to go. But if they decide that they want to do it, they've got to do an Eagle River diversion, and that water is diverted for their development and any other emergency needs for the town. They have to run all the infrastructure into it. They would have to once they pull a building permit, they would have to pay for those tap fees at our market price. whatever it may be at the time. They will not prepay anything, but they will pay like everyone else does. Now, this has still got a lot, I'm not saying there's nothing other than conversation right now. But that's where it is, and yes, we may have an opportunity that makes sense for the town, and we may not. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
But I'm wondering if it's possible to do it, agreements can always be changed, right? And it shouldn't matter that much to the water court whether we give our 250 extra SFEs to new folks or we give them to Battle Mountain. And the advantage of giving them to Battle Mountain is that instead of Battle Mountain just paying for their own stuff, this could be the incentive for Battle Mountain to pay for our stuff, which is what we really need.
Well, the catch with that is you're using 250. 250 is based on a capacity we don't presently have. The 250 is based on building up the plant.
Yeah.
Right. That's why they have to pay for the Eagle River diversion.
Of course.
Because that's where the water's coming from.
How long did the lawsuit and the settlement process take with Battle from start to finish?
I was there the whole way, 2010 to.
Well, it was 2010. But we didn't get anywhere until we filed the lawsuit.
And on average.
Which we didn't file until 22. Is that when we filed? I think it was 22.
I think we were already.
We couldn't get anywhere with them. They weren't going to do anything.
We were in violent agreement.
Without us forcing the issue.
We were in violent agreement that Battle, if they ever decide to come in, I don't think anybody disagrees with that. But right now, you're suggesting that all of a sudden this is a new idea. It's not. You know that. We've had these conversations. We've had these conversations.
Does anyone need to ask Jim Mann any further questions, or can we let him go?
No, I don't. I can let him go.
Okay.
Thank you, Jim. Thanks, Jim.
Jim, thank you so much for the memo and the analysis, and I'll be in touch after council direction is provided.
Thank you. Good luck.
Jim.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, before we go forward, we'd like to hear from anybody else different?
Anybody else? Anyone but George.
Come on, George.
George, change your name.
I think put my hat on.
Okay,
I'll be a little different.
Now I'm different. A pretreatment, oversized building that allows for pretreatment doesn't exclude the possibility of someday working with Battle Mountain. It doesn't eliminate it, actually creates an opportunity for it. I drank the Kool-Aid before. I don't know, the Leopards change their spots real often. To not commit to prepay, to me, speaks volumes. If they want to be involved, then they should put up, like Bobby Ginn did. And I think his intentions were pure, although his dreams are out of reach. But at any rate, if that's going to go, you guys make these decisions. That's why you're there. Golly, we respect you for it, and I'll support the decisions you make. But just tread cautiously, because it doesn't seem like we've had terrific treatment working with these people for a number of years. And things change. I realize that.
Thank you, whoever you are.
Exactly.
Do we have anybody else that wants to extend the conversation? Jay, is there anyone out there in Zoom land?
No, sir, nobody with their hand up.
Okay.
Just why they get the big bucks, yeah.
So
bread and water.
we have full discussion that we've done. And so we want to give direction to.
Sure, I'll just add, since I haven't added my part yet, like.
Sorry?
I just would like to make a comment.
Okay.
Yep, okay. First of all, I appreciate everybody's thoughts on this, like asking ratepayers to pay another $1,200 on their water bill a year is like a very uncomfortable and unpleasant prospect. It, I think, still remains better than living in a town without serviceable water. I think it's a little bit reckless to think that Battle Mountain after 16 years is somehow going to be part of our solution. If we had done a water treatment plant initially in 2010, we'd be almost halfway through that loan, right? And we have the obvious benefit of hindsight here. If we'd done that in 2018, we'd be 20% through that loan, right? We're 2 years away from that loan. The longer we put this off, the worse it gets for our town and the more risk we have as a community. And I think as the council, we have an obligation to act in the best interest of our town, even if that is sometimes unpalatable.
Thank you, Kate. Okay, if there's anything further, would anybody like to give a motion to give the manager direction?
Am I allowed to say something real quick? I haven't talked to
Sure.
you either. Yeah, we've been listening intently, but
Go ahead.
I just have a couple of specific questions. Going from the 30 to 90% engineering, is part of that process to talk to Eagle River Water and Sand, who is on the hook, Battle Mountain's on the hook with, to do any water supply, and make sure that this plant would be designed in the case that they would like to supply Battle North from this plant, that it's built to their standards, that would be a possibility. So have they checked in and said, like, yes, membrane plant would be, if there's a future partnership possibility, we like a membrane plant?
Let me make sure I understand the question. So you're saying if Battle Mountain becomes interested in considering consolidation of infrastructure in the future?
I would clarify, I don't think Battle Mountain would. I think Eagle River Water and Sand is on the hook to provide them their water, so it would be really dealing directly with Eagle River Water and Sand. And yeah, so anyway, so small clarification, but yes.
Okay. No, there has not been discussion with Eagle River Water and Sand to facilitate any type of a joint facility between the two entities. There has not.
I think in the process from going to 30 to 9%, that's something that we should work with their engineering team on. Not saying it could happen, but it seems to me that having two water treatment plants within 300 yards of each other out there there's got to be some sort of economies of scale that we could work towards to not have that happen. So we should work with their engineering team just to get some initial feedback on that when that goes. Second, are there any opportunities to pull the emergency brake on, say something unexpected happens during the parcel process or anything like that? You know, this is a 2-year process to issue that debt service. Is there any sort of emergency brake along the way? So like the world melts down and all of a sudden like there's real, like, we go through 2 years of no snow, and I don't know. What are there opportunities to pull the e-brake and say, like, hey, let's change this or modify the plan or change the plan or change this? What's the
Staff is always at the direction of the town council. So yes.
when does that debt situation become hard?
When it goes to bond in June of 2026, things become very final.
Okay.
Yes.
Those are my 2 questions. Thanks.
Eric?
No, I don't have any questions or anything to add. This has been discussed in length. I think Kate put it perfectly there, so I'm ready to give direction and let's get started.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve a membrane treatment plant with capacity for pre-treatment structure.
Actually, it's just design on it.
Yep.
What do you say, Dusty?
It's just design on it. Approve the design.
Yeah. Okay, do we have a second on the motion? Okay, all in favor of that motion, thumbs up.
Can we have something a little more?
Go ahead, I'm sorry, what?
This is a big decision. Can I get more than a thumbs up?
This is a vote.
Let's have a, okay,
Was there a second?
I'll second that.
okay, so we have a motion by Tom and a second by Eric. Roll call, please.
Gusty, aye.
Brian, second by Brian.
I did not second, sorry.
Oh, I thought you did, sorry.
Go ahead.
Gusty, aye.
Okay.
Then I.
Tom, aye.
Brian, aye.
Eric, aye.
And Earl, aye. Thank you guys for showing up. It really helped us.
I want to thank the council too, and I apologize for interrupting, but this is a decision that's been back and forth for 6 years, and it's been a really hard decision for a leadership body to make because of the impacts it has to the residents. And everybody here cares so deeply for this community and the impacts that this has. And it's really rare that you get to see such a well thought out, difficult discussion in a public forum with the public in participation, and you can get to a decision that, quite frankly, no one's excited or happy about, but knows that it's the best thing. Thank you so much. As a member of staff for 15 years watching these conversations occur, this was heartening to see how this took place tonight with the leadership team and the residents.
You all make it possible.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Especially you, George.
I live to serve, sorry.
Why don't you double her salary? and let her leave?
I tried. It's good. They didn't want money.
Change your bottle. You stoned.
I didn't know.
Yeah. Oh, that's engraved down there. Oh, that's nice. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Keystone's still on there.
I'm gonna give you a red
Yeah.
ink. It's over.
Nice. She came in the meeting.
Yeah.
Not for the
I don't
machine.
care about this. I should have come and sat right here.
You know, do we need to talk about future agenda items? Can we just adjourn?
Merry Christmas.
I mean, I'll make a motion to adjourn. It's my favorite one.
Okay, is that a motion?
You could just
I
say,
think we have to talk about next meeting, Michelle, or are we good?
We will just be adding to future agenda items, steps for the council to take as part of the interim executive search process and recruitment process.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Kate, second by Tom. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thanks, council. As a reminder, we have canceled the January 1st council meeting.
Yeah, I think that's correct.
Sorry, Eric, that I got that second wrong. Someone.
It was so quiet.